Welcome at Pizza and More. Are you wondering why the pizza at the pizza place is normally better than at home? My name is Jürgen and I show you how we are able to bake at home a pizza which is minimum the same delicious like at the pizza place. We make together today a dough with a medium leavening time of around 24 hours, and at the end we bake together a fantastic pizza. The ingredients are this one. Today we need 500 grams pizza flour. I have here type 0, 325 grams of cold water, 0.7 grams of dry yeast, and 15 grams of fine sea salt. We start now with our ingredients. The first thing we add into our machine is our cold water. These 325 grams of water are a hydration of 65%. If you are afraid with a hydration of 65%, then use 62%. Also no problem. What you also could do is keep 15 grams, 10 grams, 15 grams of water in your can and use in the first instance only 310 grams of water, because this is necessary maybe if you have a new flour, if you don't know how your flour works, because it's always easier to control a bit the amount of water instead of controlling the amount of flour. Because if we would add now all the flour, all the water, I can do this because I know my flour. If this is a pretty new flour and you never used it before and you add directly all the water, there is the danger that if the dough sticks at the end, then you maybe have to add additional flour. But here we have to know, as soon we add flour, we also have to add salt. Otherwise the taste of the dough is not as it should be. So always better, if you don't know your flour, keep a bit of water back and then add it at the end when you see, okay, my dough is proper, it's dry, I can add the water easily. So the next what we add is our flour. And we add now our yeast. If you want to use fresh yeast, this is also no problem. Fresh yeast is 2.1 grams. If you have no balance which is able to measure these small amounts, 1 gram of fresh yeast is a small ball which you can roll in your fingers in the size of a pea. So 2.1 grams, for example, are around 2 small yeast balls in the size of a pea. The last ingredient, which is our salt, will be kept out. We will add the salt after 5 minutes of mixing time, and in 5 minutes we add then our salt. And when we added the salt, we are also able to increase the speed of our machine. By the way, I use here a flour of type 0 with 12.5% protein and a W value of 260 to 280. If you want to know a bit more about the W value or about the protein, in this video which I linked here, I explained everything a bit more in detail. As I said, we start now the mixing time, which is around 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, the salt. Then we are able to increase the speed of our machine. The whole kneading time will be around 20 minutes. However, the kneading time is not set in stone, which means it depends on the flour, it depends on the temperature, it depends on various factors. So it could be that your kneading time is only 15 minutes. It could be that you have to knead 25 minutes. It's so dependent on the machine, if you knead by hand or however. So the most secure thing is to know, is the kneading finished or not, is if you make this window test, what we will do later. If the window test works, the dough is properly kneaded. If you want to bake your pizza in the normal kitchen oven, then you have to add 5 grams of honey and 5 grams of olive oil. If you want to know why we have to add this when we bake in the kitchen oven, I also have it explained in this video which I linked you here. 20 minutes later, I think the dough is now properly kneaded. I controlled always the temperature of the dough. My dough has actually a temperature of 25.3 degrees. It's still okay because, as we know, the temperature should not be over 25 to 27 degrees, otherwise there is the possibility that the gluten structure breaks again. I try now to make the window test. I take out a piece of dough, I form a ball, and then I stretch it again between the fingers, and you can see I'm able to stretch it properly so the dough is properly kneaded. If you try this as well and the window test is not working, the dough is breaking immediately, then I would say normally the dough is not ready kneaded. If you are afraid of kneading the dough more and more and more and more, normally it's impossible to do an over kneading. What the possibility is that the temperature rises too far. If this happens and your temperature is too high, then cover your bowl, cover the machine and let the dough rest for around 30 minutes. And you will see after 30 minutes, if you give it again a round in the machine, the window test will work. Now I take it out onto my counter. If you have then the dough in front of you on the counter, we do several times the so-called stretch and fold. So should the dough be too sticky still, then due to this exercise the dough stops sticking. You see, I fold it and I stretch it. I take it, I lift it, I fold it and I stretch it. If the surface is nice and strong, we can turn the dough ball several times, and then I pull it only with the little fingers. I go under and I pull it, and I don't roll the dough ball. And then if we have here a nice and strong dough ball, we take it into a box. I have here a dough ball box, and then we let it rest. Now it's super important to close the lid, so to cover our dough from the air so that the surface of the dough doesn't get dry. We let the dough rest now for around 1 to 2 hours at room temperature, and then we put it into the fridge. And in the fridge it can rise for additional 10 to 12 hours. It would be also possible to shape the dough balls directly after a rest from around 30 or 60 minutes or so. Create the dough balls and then put the dough balls into the fridge. This works as well, but I do now a bulk fermentation for around 12 hours, and after 12 hours in the fridge I create the dough balls. I have not explained you why we have the leavening time in the fridge. It would be also possible to have the 24 hours dough, a total leavening at room temperature. The problem at room temperature is we can't control the temperature in our rooms. It depends, is it winter, is it summer? So the temperature raises and drops, and it's difficult, a bit difficult to control the temperature. And then we would also always have to adapt the amount of yeast. So the warmer the leavening temperature, the less yeast we have to use. This is a bit more complicated, and that's the reason why I decided to let the dough rise in the fridge. In the fridge we have normally a temperature at around 4 to 6 degrees, which is fantastic. And here we have a controlled temperature, and then we know the right amount of yeast and the right amount of time. If you like my video, it would be fantastic if you could press the like button. Thank you very much for this. If you want to write everything down, or if you think you have to note everything down, what I say, or the whole recipe, it's not necessary. The recipe and also the whole steps is in the video description. Now my dough had a leavening time for around 10 hours in the fridge. I took it out. I have it here on the counter, and now it's time to create the pizza balls, the so-called panetti. To create our pizza balls, we take the dough out of the box. We already can see here some air bubbles, which is great. We take the dough on our counter, and then we make pieces of around 280 to 290 grams, which is then the right size for a pizza with a diameter of 30 to 33 centimeters. To shape the pizza balls, we have the three different possibilities, or these are for me the easiest three. We keep the surface what we have now from the leavening on top, and we push all the dough underneath, and we stretch here the upper side, and then we take it between those two fingers and always push the dough underneath and into the dough ball. And here you can see how fantastic the surface is stretched, how strong it is. The dough is not sticky, as you see. And then we close the dough ball on the below side. We can press it here a little bit, then take it onto the counter. If it's not strong enough, turn it a bit and pull it. Don't roll it, pull it, turn it a bit, and then the dough ball is done. The second way to create the dough ball is we let again this surface what we already have for top, but now we have to put it onto the counter and then stretch from each side the dough and fold it into the center. And if we do this around the circle, and then we flip the dough ball around, we can already see it's super stretched here and it's nice and strong already. Then we turn it again, sometimes on the counter, we push it, we pull it, and then we see it, the dough ball is created properly, and we have a nice dough ball. And the last possibility for me, what we have, we make the so-called stretch and fold, what I showed you earlier with the big ball as well. We fold it and then we stretch it. We fold it, we stretch it, fold it, and we do this several times. And here you also can see that we have a very strong surface. And here as well the same, we turn it a little bit, we pull it, and we close the bottom. And then it's prepared to go also into the box. And again, one important step what we have to do is we take the lid of the box and we close the box to protect the dough from drying out. I place this dough right now immediately into the fridge, or I put it back into the fridge to continue the leavening time. The leavening time in total from now to baking will be around 12 hours. 5 hours before baking we take the dough out of the fridge. This depends always then on the temperature. The warmer it is, the longer it needs to stay in the fridge. Now I think we have around 22 degrees. There are the 4 to 5 hours absolutely okay. If it's maybe 25 degrees, then 3 to 2 hours are enough. You have to have a look a bit here how your dough evolves because and develops. This is always kind of the room temperature. The warmer it is, as I said, the longer the time in the warmer it is, the longer the time in the fridge. That's correct. If you have mozzarella which is in the salty water, take the mozzarella out of this salty water, cut it into sticks, and put it into a sieve, and put the sieve then into the fridge and let it drain there for around 10 hours or so. My dough had now the possibility to raise around 24 hours, and my oven is preheated. I preheated my electro oven again to 450 degrees. Originally I planned to bake the pizza today outside in the garden with my gas oven. The weather forecast was pretty nice, but unfortunately there are dark clouds, and so it's for me now too dangerous to go outside and bake outside. That's the reason why I decided on a short notice to use the electro oven. Now we take the dough out of the box. We have to be very gentle, and it's not good if we stress the dough right now. At the first thing we take some semolina, put semolina over the dough ball, then we release the dough from each side where it's connected to another dough ball or to the box, and then we lift it out, and we have to be really very careful with the dough. As soon we press the dough right now, or as soon we try to new shape the dough, we have the problem that we are not able anymore to stretch the dough, because then the dough is stressed and it goes always back like a chewing gum. We flip the dough several times around in the semolina, then we take it out onto the counter. We see, is the dough ball nice round? If not, we make a nice round shape very carefully, and then we start pressing with the fingertips from the center to the crust, which means we press all the air which is in the center of the dough towards the crust, because this is exactly what we want at the end. We want to have a very airy, a fluffy, a nice crust. Don't press the crust right now, because as soon you press the crust, you press all the air out, and then it will not work afterwards that we have a nice Neapolitan pizza. So we leave around 1.5 to 2 centimeters of crust where we don't press. We press only in the center. And you see, I grab here the crust, but not really. I'm here always in the middle of the dough. We have to be here a bit careful that we don't break the dough. If this is done, we put all the semolina away, and then we can stretch the dough over our hands as well. We have now not the final size what we want to have at the end, because the final size what we want at the end is then done and stretched on our peel. The first thing we add right now is the tomato. I prepared the tomato sauce already. This is San Marzano tomatoes. I teared the San Marzano tomatoes by hand. I avoided to destroy the seed, because this would be bitter afterwards. Then I added only 5 grams of sea salt. I mixed it up, done. A very nice tomato sauce with lots of tomato taste. If you want, you can add some olive oil or some fresh basil, but the basil and the olive oil will be put onto the pizza a bit later. So now I have here a bigger spoon, which means I take here 2 spoons of tomatoes. Then I distribute it on the pie. I don't put any tomato onto the crust, because this was my plan, to put nothing onto the crust. Now I have to be a bit careful, because otherwise it could be that this piece sticks. If such a thing happens to you, then you take some semolina, and you can put here semolina and protect the dough that it does not stick here, because we want that the dough sticks. The next thing we add is some fresh grated Parmesan cheese or Grana Padano. If you don't like Grana Padano or Parmesan cheese, leave it simply away. The next what we add is some mozzarella, or I have here fior di latte. If you don't like fior di latte, if you think it has too less taste, you also can use any other cheese, whatever you want. The normal one is fior di latte. Normal is good said. Use which cheese ever you like. I decided today to make a pizza diavola. I have here some hot pepperoni or some hot salsiccia picante, and because I like it, I add some mushrooms. I cut the mushrooms already because there is some danger, because as everybody knows, the mushrooms are always full of water, and I cut them already so that they get a bit dry. The next we add is some olive oil, and then it's time to put the pizza onto the peel. For this we take some semolina onto our peel, and then we lift the dough, we lift the pizza, and with one shot we take the peel under. And now it's time, as I said earlier, to bring the pizza to its final size. I have here a peel which is 33 centimeters, and I want to have pizza with round about this diameter. You can see I stretch it now. If this is done and you have some free space, like here, then you can add here some cheese again, and or even if you want, you leave it away. Nice. And now it's time to launch the pizza into the oven. Here you can see the oven a bit better. As already said, the oven is preheated to 450 degrees. Oh, look here how it looks. Isn't it fantastic? And here comes the pizza. It's, as I said, it's nice and crispy. The bottom is perfectly cooked. If you don't like such a big crust, then you have to press the crust a bit more, press the air out, and then the crust will be a bit smaller. But I like that big crust, and that's the reason why I make it like this. Now I add some fresh basil, because this looks nice and it smells fantastic, and now I cut the pizza. If you wonder why I cut the pizza with scissors, don't wonder. I use scissors for cutting pizza for almost 30 years, so it's nothing new for me. And here you can see how nice and soft the pizza is, full of air. It's really amazing. And now I cut here a piece out because I want to taste it. I have to tell you how it is. I take this piece of pizza, I fold it. Oh, it's so nice and hot. This tastes so fantastic. Now I take a bite from the crust as well. This pizza is really absolutely recommended. You have to try it, you have to bake it. I wish you lots of fun with making also this pizza and this recipe. If you like my video, please subscribe my channel, and if you don't have 24 hours or longer time to create a pizza dough, here I have a video which shows you how to make it in 8 hours. Thank you and see you soon. Ciao.